This next part of the presentation about the Second Life user story focuses on people who are creators and makers, people who want to earn coin for their hard work through leveraging their skills at various disciplines, whether it be animation, meshing, texturing, sound production, experience production. The kind of work we're doing now at Microsoft to create applications. That same sort of talent carries over into Second Life. So before I move on, I would just like to say that there's a lot of funny things being said about Second Life over the years and how it's a bit silly. I started investigating Second Life about 5 years ago. I wanted to do some sort of embedded understanding of this amazing place. Everything about it to me sounded fascinating, so I joined. And the very first thing I started doing was building, because I wasn't necessarily interested in consuming it. I was more interested in building it and making money. And to that end, I focused on making money and took it very seriously, and over the course of some time I was able to put together enough money to help me buy a house in real life. So this is the house that Second Life built. It's here in Redmond, and Second Life helped pay for a significant portion of the down payment. So now that we know that the money is real and can be easily converted in and out of Second Life, let's move on to our main character, the mascot of our business, which we set up earlier. So here we see him again, just a quick reminder. That's an example of his business there on the computer behind him. It's called Iliastra, and let's see how he built that. So first, of course, he has to log in to set up his business, and that's quick and easy to do. He could do this, he could actually start building a business right away. But I wanted to focus on making a mascot first so I could walk around and show my work to people. So here you can see I'm editing my account details, and up in the corner there, up in the upper right there, it says create a store. So I figured I'll just go ahead and create a store. Now, it's not going to let just anybody create a store right off the bat. You have to have payment information on file so that money can be moved back and forth. They want to be able to, they don't like money laundering, so they want to make sure everything's on the up and up. So they're going to ask you to purchase some money with a proper account and so forth, and you have to agree to the marketplace fee and listing policies. And let's go ahead and do that. So let's get some payment method on file. I'm going to purchase some lindens to start me out, to start some seed money for my business, only $5. So we'll get that going. Paid with my Discover, verification, and now I need to agree to the listing policies. Now the listing policies are pretty extensive. They handle everything from IP to how much money you can put in and take out in a given day. You can see changes in cost. So the price of a linden fluctuates. It's got its own market, all kinds of things. So I recommend anybody who wants to try this definitely read it. You'll be tested on it later, as you'll see. So now once I've agreed, I can go ahead and make the store. So I already picked a name out for it, Iliastra, and it's going to focus on sort of fantastic goods, stuff that's out of the norm. Stuff that my competition will be very slight on. I'm not the best at making items, so I don't want to compete directly with people. I want to create unique items where I can be the star. So I've already created the business. The business now exists. Now I'm being asked to do some branding. So I'm going to make some branding, and I'm going to throw it up on the page. So anybody who comes to my web presence will get my store's branding. Now that we have the store all set up, we have two options. We can start out as if we were newbies and go to a class that's taught in-world using all the resources we need to make our first product. What you see before you is something called Builder's Brewery. And this is a place where you can learn to build collaboratively. And for these classes, it's not just a bunch of people getting together and stumbling in the dark and trying to talk to one another one at a time. It's a hosted experience. Now, this approach is a bottom-up approach. This is not sponsored by Second Life. It's just a bunch of people getting together, trying to share the craft of building. As you see in the foreground, you've got your teacher, and then out in the background there, you've got numerous people who have shown up to learn the trade. So attending a class at Builder's Brewery, for example, is a lot like going to a craft store and attending a class. You've got not only the teacher helping you learn the trade, but also a number of students. And the amount of crosstalk that happens really makes it into a social experience. And a lot of people will bond and have just lots of fun as they build, which keeps them coming back to learn more and more complex skills. As you can see here, the teacher also shares out the supplies for the particular class that's going out. Here they've shared out a texture and a basic primitive that they'll step the students through and learn to build more and more complex objects. And while the people at Builders Bay really do seem to enjoy the work that they do, it does come at a cost to them. So they help support their organization by asking for donations during the class and at the end of the class. And as you can see here, their donation system works relatively well. They set a certain goal, and if they meet that, they're able to pay their rent, and they're able to pay for all the school supplies that they give out freely during each class. Now, while I really enjoy working with others in this environment and learning new skills, my skills are already at a pretty high level. So what I use Builders Brewery for is to make social connections. And one of the greatest things about Builders Brewery is they have a news group. And on that news group, people will ask for individual products that they would like to have built for them. So it's already a revenue stream that you can dive into and start building for. And here I very luckily found someone already looking for something that my store I think would be great to provide. So she's asking for something sort of Little Mermaid-ish. It's a little starfish. It's like a starfish bra. So that's something I know I can make fairly easily. So I engage with her and ask her how much she thinks it would go for. But this isn't just a one-off product. I'm not going to sell it just once. I plan to monetize this for the long term, and I explain that to her, that this isn't a commissioned piece that'll be unique, that I plan to monetize it. So I'll charge her a modest fee for the custom work. And I eventually meet her in person to kind of get a sense of what I'd be working with. So I'm here to make her look even better. So she's pretty janky at this point, but I think I can work with this. So I let her know that I'm going to take the job, and I immediately set to work. So here I'm in a tool called Marvelous Designer. It's a professional tool where you can do very modern sewing simulation. It simulates cloth, it simulates seams. I can do just about anything with this when it involves clothing. So here I've made some stars, I've applied physics, I've rested the model on her back so that the stars will conform to her shape. And then I start building out some textures in Photoshop. And here I am now in 3D Max, getting everything just right. So now there's a special site where I can go, plus a special place in Second Life where I can upload my products for free to test them out. Normally you incur a fee every time you upload a new good. It's modest. It's very modest. It's a half a cent in most cases. And here you see these are the things. Now it's telling me I don't have the rights to upload mesh models. Well, that's kind of interesting because I thought I created my store. How else am I going to get products in? So I'm going to go back to my website, and it says it requires that you get registered before you can upload content to Second Life. So I have to, here's the important part. I need to do the IP tutorial. And the IP tutorial focuses on intellectual property rights. It'll talk to you about, don't upload things that aren't yours, don't upload things that, are clearly mascots for other companies, or don't brand them with things like Nike if you're not Nike. So you go through this tutorial, and here's an example here. Someone wants to do some fan work. They're a huge movie fan, and they want to make a character for it for Second Life. Can they sell it in Second Life? The answer is no. So you get treated to all that stuff, and I luckily scored 10 out of 10, but I'm also pointed to other resources to learn more. So now that I can actually upload, I do. So I've uploaded those two stars that we made earlier. And now, since I only have a male character right now, I'm going to jump into a female character, and that's pretty quick and easy to do. As you see on the right, there's a whole list of things, different characters you can be, and I've chosen this one. It looks perfect for the job. Next, I res the starfish in world, so I can do a little bit of editing before applying them to the avatar. Here's roughly what they look like. It's a first pass attempt. It's got no textures. But now I'm going to color them and make them a little more interesting. The client had asked that the edges glow or do something, interesting like that. So I've achieved the results I wanted. And now you can see they're not only just meshes. To the left here, you see that I've added lots of code. So when you click on one of these, you can choose from many different colors, many different textures. Here you see that one is textured one way and the others are textured another. So it gives a lot more variety to the object. And here I'm presenting it to Prissy, who had originally ordered it, and here you can see she's paid me. That's the first money I've made as this character, so I'm pretty excited by that. And here's her with the starfish being worn. Relatively easy to apply. Later I found out she herself had a company, and just to add a little color, this character, it turns out, likes to be a mermaid in Second Life, and she performs dances for YouTube. And she really likes putting on performances set to music, but one of the most interesting things about her is she's deaf, completely deaf. So she's met people on Second Life who are willing to help her do what she loves and do choreographed dances. And so I just thought that was a neat little aside. Getting to know your clients is an important part of creating a good public image, and that's absolutely critical when your business relies largely on word of mouth, which currently mine does. It's a very young store. So, in that vein, anytime I ship this product, because now I'm monetizing it more largely, I'm going to put it on the marketplace instead of selling it to just one person. I create a folder and I create a thank you for your purchase that every person who buys my material will receive this thank you. And then here I am listing it on the marketplace. And now when I go to the web, I see I've got this mermaid starfish item here. I'm going to set it up to be copy and modify so that people can make multiple copies of it. I'm also setting it for modify, meaning they can change its colors by hand, change its size, change all kinds of things about it, but I'm not going to let them transfer it. If I were to let them transfer it, they could copy, modify it, and then send it along without me getting any pay to friends. So I've turned transfer off. I've also indicated that it's wearable and usable by most avatars. And here is where I talk a little bit about it. It's a chance to talk about the product. And I also went around, found somebody who was willing to model the product for me, and I shot photos of that person wearing the product and in suitable environments where you might find a mermaid. I can add related products. I can add a demo item later if I so choose, so that people can try out the item at a very small cost. And then if they like it, they can decide to purchase it. And if I wanted to, I could share the money I make with somebody else. If I were feeling particularly generous, I might share a portion of the proceeds from this product with the person who originally suggested it. But I'm a new store. I'm not going to do that. I need all the money I can get. So the next thing I want to do is create a group. A group allows me to communicate to my fan base, of which I have exactly none. But it'll also allow me to communicate with the people who help me, people who provide sounds or ideas, or people who want to do modeling for the store. So I'll go ahead and create that. I'll bring my thumbnail that I created for my store, and I'll use it as my group logo. That way I'll be more recognizable. I'll have a brand. And this is one of the few times that Second Life will actually charge me for a service. Because it has to be moderated and it has to be hosted by a remote server, they're going to charge me a little bit of money. Again, this is probably less than 50 cents, not going to break the bank. So now I have to think about what I could do next. Well, since I've already got this sort of starfish theme going, maybe I'll try and create something very unique. So the thing I settled on while talking with these these various mermaids is they'd like instruments to play. So I settled on something called an ocarina. And for that, I needed sounds. So I contacted a friend of mine, and he gave me the do-re-mi of what an ocarina sounds like. So now I've got these files called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those refer to the do-re-mi. So what I'm going to do is create just a box for now and write the code, a rough prototype of the ocarina and how it'll behave. And here I create a script, and here you can see me scripting it up. And now with those notes, I'm going to be able to allow people to play tunes and write their own tunes and have them play back. And so now that I've got most of the script written, I'm going to go ahead and just build this by hand in 3ds Max. Relatively simple object, shouldn't be a problem. It's good enough that it's not going to be distracting. I'm not particularly proud of this one, but it gets the job done. The next thing I'm going to have to do is, in order to make it look like you can actually play it, you have to create animations that look like you're playing it. So here you can see I'm using a tool to create animations. So now I've made all that stuff, I can actually pull it all together, and here you see an avatar actually attempting to play the ocarina. We got the animation going. We're just about ready to productize this. The last thing involved with that is I have to include some songs. So I had my wife compose some songs based on the do-re-mi scale, and she was very obliging, so we have some cute sounds that play from the ocarina right off the bat whenever anyone purchases it. So here's an example of what a finished product might look like in the marketplace. As you can see, it's copy modify so that people can, adjust it and make certain adjustments that'll make it easier for their particular avatar to play it. And here you can see I found an avatar to model for it, and it just creates a very rich story for the product, as opposed to just the ocarina on a white background. Seeing how people will experience the product goes a long way toward making them buy your product. And I've priced it at about $2. So once I've finished the real product, I've written another script that I can just drop onto the product that turns it into a demo. And here's a way of, again, illustrating that they're buying a demo version. I'm going to charge them a modest fee for the demo because of the labor involved in creating a demo. Going back to my group, I've got a couple of models now. And then I have a few fans, which is pretty neat. In fact, one of my fans decided to send me a glory shot of herself playing the ocarina. Now, I didn't request this, but sometimes you'll get things like this, and it's often a good idea to include fan photos in your advertisements. But what's more important is she suggested that some of her friends really liked this, but they want it in the form of a pan flute. Well, being relatively skilled, I'm able to go ahead, pull up some reference images, and build a pan flute in 3ds Max. And I was able to quickly upload it and quickly create custom animations for it so that your head turns as it plays each note. Really quite nifty. And then wandered into another place where I thought I might find some customers, or at least some people to speak well of my business and my work. And I found this group of adventurers, and I gave them each a free pan flute, and we all had a great time. They told me they'd tell their friends about my work, and at little cost, I was able to just dispense these. I've got an infinite supply of them, so hopefully one of these people or one of their friends will buy the panpipe in the near future. So during that session, I asked them if I could take pictures of them, and I did so, and they served as excellent models for my advertising. Now here you can see I've got some purchases coming in from customers, which is pretty exciting news. I've anonymized them, but you can see people are buying my products. Very exciting. So it comes to me every time someone buys something, I get a little piece of toast in my email. If I want a more regimented approach to studying how my sales are going, Second Life Marketplace actually has a lot of support for that. There's many different ways to study how my sales are going. I can look at the top selling goods. I can see what's selling the least. I can see if price is a factor on things. And based on that, And based on the demos that I've created, I can see who's purchased the demos and who's gone through and made a purchase, or I can see who's not gone through with a purchase. And I can learn a great deal from that. For example, I found someone who purchased the demo version of the ocarina but didn't follow through on the purchase of the full version. So I contact her in world just to ask her about why she didn't follow through on it. Well, as it turns out, she really liked it, but the visual that came with it she wasn't all that keen on. She'd prefer something that looked like a conch, which is a shell that you often see people carrying around on the beaches of Hawaii, or in movies where people lift a shell to their lips and blow and it makes this beautiful resonant noise. That's the kind of thing she's looking for. So if I just changed the way it looks, she'd be willing to buy. So I set about doing exactly that. I'm not that great an artist at making organic things, so I decided to check out Sketchfab to see what was available. And lo and behold, I found a conch. Now, I had to contact this particular person who uploaded the conch to see if they'd let me download it, and they were gracious enough to do so. And also I made a friend. This person's a Roman archaeologist who runs around capturing all kinds of different things with a special camera. And she let me download it, and I thanked her, of course. And so the image on the left here is the thing I downloaded, and as you can see, it's incredibly dense for what it is. So I can't load something that complicated into Second Life, or Second Life's going to have a fit. Imagine if all the things you've seen in Second Life have this level of mesh density. So what I needed to do was retopologize and reduce the number of triangles that it used. So that's a tricky procedure. So there's a number of different ways you can do it through optimization. I used a number of tools. I think I wound up using Mesh Mixer ultimately, and it gave me these results. Luckily, it has sliders, so I was able to really optimize exactly how many I needed. And again, I created custom animations for this one because you hold a shell different than you hold pan flutes. But I was able to go through this whole process in just a couple days. Now, for a hobby, it's one, a lot of fun, and two, I was able to get to the product to market very quickly. It's important to understand why this particular methodology is so compelling. Capturing the totality of real-world objects was out of our grasp until recently. We can only imagine the effect this will have on a broad swath of business concerns. Perhaps some of you may remember the story of John Henry, a celebrated steel-driving man who worked for the railroad industry. In short, he was said to have competed against a steam drill in a contest. While he won the battle, he was said to have died immediately thereafter of exhaustion. Now, with the same analogy, I put myself up against a very skilled artist to recreate a simpler version of this conch from scratch. Meanwhile, I used all the tools at my disposal to take the original and decimate it down to something more manageable. The results were as I expected. Not only did it exhaust the artist, but the same artist pointed to many human factors as to why he couldn't match my results. In short, automated systems won the day. Together, we decided that the ease with which real-world objects can be scanned and decimated will leave very little monetization opportunities for skilled artists. However, stylized versions of real-world objects, or perhaps suites of objects that share the same artistic flair, may come to be more valued than their real-life counterparts, especially if the supply can be controlled through DRM. So, in the same way I try and keep a good relationship with my clients, I also like to keep a good relationship with the people who provide the underlying content. Here I'm thanking Abby Crawford and trying to remain friends with her, and she's so excited by what I've done that she's hoping that she can do more for me. She loves seeing her stuff in a virtual world, something very unexpected to her. And now to the left, to the right, you can see this Daniel Morrison, who posts to a group in Facebook that he's been scanning tombstones and tombs and things like that, and I suggest to him, hey, it would be great if you'd let me use this as a product in Second Life, and he's all for it. So that's really fun. I've shown a number of different ways you can make products for Second Life, but there's many more. A lot of people come to Second Life as a newbie and they don't really have the skills that I do. And what's nice is you can buy templates to get you started. So here's an assortment of clothing, and we know that's a really big market, women's clothing. But these are sold as full permission, meaning that you can alter the textures and do all kinds of things. But as you can see, the actual mesh itself is quite complex. Not only is it visually and the topology is very complex, but it's also rigged so that it moves nicely like clothing would on a variety of avatar bodies. Now, so if I wanted to really jumpstart my business and compete in a very rugged market, I could make women's clothes, and many people do. As you can see here, this dress on the left is made from a template, but someone has created their own fabric as a texture, and then they can sell that as their design through some agreements with the original creator. Other people do the same with shoes. Some people, jewelry sells very well. People focus on jewelry. Those are really, all of these things on this page are the hot items in Second Life if you're really good at what you do. So what's happened with Iliastra, my second Second Life company, since I first created it back in November for the purposes of this presentation? Well, I've already cranked out a number of other products and I'm well into the black. More importantly, I've begun to build a name for myself, or should I say my brand. As a result, a well-respected Valentine's Day virtual theme park will showcase my 4-player card game, a virtual analog of the same game I licensed to my publisher in the real world. Over the past few minutes, I've shown just how easy it is to create a simple turnkey business in Second Life at very little cost. The low barrier to entry, even for the most novice among us, has created a rich and vibrant economy that exceeds the GNP of many small countries. With over $60 million being distributed among all the businesses in Second Life, we've only scratched the surface of what will be possible as Project Sansar, the next version of Second Life, gets rebooted for the modern age.